Are you tired of all the dating games, rules, and societal norms that make falling in love confusing and stressful?
Then join us as we ditch the script and empower you to establish healthy, conscious relationships.
This weekly podcast breaks down popular dating reality television and educates you on healthy versus toxic dating habits.
I'm Brianna, a licensed therapist.
And I'm Alex, a trauma-informed and certified narcissist recovery coach.
Are you ready to ditch the script?
Jumbo.
I love it.
Wait, why can't I hear you? Come back to me.
I fucking
Baby, come back.
I hate the like Riverside mute selection is so infuriating. It like doesn't totally respond. I hate it. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jumbo.
Jumbo.
That means hello in what language? What language are we speaking? We don't know.
Oh, I know.
Okay, never mind.
No, okay, let me just say it like this. I stole it from Misaki, who's the coach of the Kenyan baseball team. So something in Africa, which is really ignorant of me.
Because he coaches baseball in Kenya.
Correct.
So we are too ignorant to know what language they speak in Kenya. Just
dumb white
naming
bitches.
It. Yeah, just two dumb white
We're gonna
bitches.
own it. Maybe that should be the name of our podcast.
Two dumb white bitches.
Except we're not that dumb. We're a little ignorant.
No, we're not that dumb.
But we're not that
ignorant. We're always seeking to learn and grow and be better. So we are committing to being better. We will figure out.
We'll report back on that.
We'll report back to you. Well, that was humbling.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm tired. I mean, look, I'm okay in a good way, not okay in a negative way. You know, it's like life is lifing, life be lifing. But I'm just like 1-2 punching in response, and we're doing it. But the summer, honestly, the summer heat is driving me effing bonkers.
Yeah, y'all. So Alex is in the desert in Palm Springs, California, and it is a dry, like 13?
It was 116 and 17 this week.
Insane.
Yeah, it's like being in a fucking sauna, and then you're outside, and it's like the dog's not getting walked nearly as much as she should be getting walked because it's like sufferable. And whenever I'm outside for any period of time, it's like I'm immediately zoinked of all energy and happiness. It's wild. So yeah, it's that time of year where out here every local is like questioning their life choices, but then come October until about May, it's the most spectacular weather ever. So it's just kind of like, you know,
suffer through it. I mean, same with Florida. It's like it literally feels like being trapped in someone's sweaty armpit.
So true.
Down here. It is. It's like it's so thick and it's so hot, and the only way that I survive it is by not going outside in the middle of the day. Yeah. I can't, like, my tolerance for being outside here without access to water. Yeah, it's like my cap is after 10 a.m. I can't be outside. 10 a.m. and then I can't really go back outside until 6:30, 7. And then I come alive.
Yeah. She's alive. Yeah, 100.
Yeah. It's hard to be a dog in these climates.
I can only imagine.
These poor animals.
Yeah.
Well, so we're hot and we're tired.
We're hot and we're hot and we're tired, but we're here. Yeah. What else is going on in your life? Anything interesting that we want to talk about on the pod?
Yeah, I do. But first, I just want to acknowledge, like how many more Sunday recording sessions will I show up without a voice? How many times will we do this?
Who's to know? We're gonna find out.
I just like I you guys, I've not been treating my body like a temple. I have not. I have not been treating my body like a temple, and she
You're having a
deserves.
hot girl summer.
I'm having a hot girl summer, but I'm also suffering like a cold girl summer, hot girl attire. And I'm not treating her like a temple, and she is punishing for me as she should.
Yeah, she's
As
like,
she should. Yeah, she's like, you be telling people to honor your body's needs, and I have just my needs have been neglected, girl.
oh man,
So do as I say, not as I do. That's how I feel.
love it. We're here
Hmm.
for it.
But the thing that I was going to talk about is like a couple weeks ago, I had mentioned that I was in like breakup city. That was true and a false alarm. We re engaged. We were off the streets once again. But, babe, the streets are calling.
The streets are
She's back.
calling.
The
They're
streets are
beckoning for
calling.
Bree.
They're beckoning. They said, this is why I haven't been treating my body like a temple. No, the streets are calling. I'm back here in this place. And I wanted to talk about it just like a little because
Yeah.
I think for the single folks that identify with a little bit of like my own experience, my own story of just like chronic singledom,
Mm,
it can feel really frustrating, really disappointing to see another relationship not really like come to fruition and like really work out in a way that you have been working for yourself to build up to. Like I we talk about this a lot here, but like I've put a lot of energy and time focusing on who I am individually and in a relationship to be in the kind of relationship that I really would believe would be like satisfying and fulfilling and a good addition to my life, not all of my life. And
yes.
I've worked really hard on that and I'm really proud of that work. And what I don't feel right now is too much disappointment. And I don't feel like down in the dumps about it. And I want to be able to speak to that a little bit because it is tempting to feel really bummed out. And if that's where you are, I honor that with you. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's been important for me to like engage in the experience of like, but what am I leaving with? Because I'm leaving with so much, so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
When I entered this last relationship, which like maybe not all parties would call it such, but I will. We will.
100%. Right there. That's a knee slapper right there.
Yeah, yeah. Listen,
Oh,
if you're in my
Jesus.
life, if you know, you know. If you
You
know, you
know.
know. Um, but what I entered this relationship feeling was like I just want someone to I think I had this like core belief for a really long time that I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to be with someone that was going to really like choose me. I always identified with the narrative of being quite easy to leave behind. And that was really
Mm,
fucking with me. And that stayed with me for a really long time because a lot of relationships hadn't worked out. And it didn't feel like it was because they were like, I love you. I need you. Like, of course, like they were kind of like, yeah, I'm out. If I was even getting that. Right.
Jesus Christ.
Right. Right. If you know, you know. So
Yeah.
I was feeling really, I was feeling really like clung to the narrative of like, like I just need someone to fucking choose me.
Yeah.
And in my head, I always knew that that was layered. Like it would be important for them to choose me and also to feel chosen and respected and have like fun and a good life and be seen. And this experience brought a lot to me that I think was healing for me. And I think that they were a
Mm,
good backdrop with me for. I don't think that they were fully aware of my own the healing
mm,
that was going on for me. And I appreciate them for that. And they also didn't need to be debriefed on every moment of my healing.
yeah.
I knew what I was working on. I had a great opportunity to be able to work on it with this person in my life at the time. And so I did. And I'm really grateful
Yeah.
for that. And I'm grateful to
Yeah.
him because it was because he was a good dude that I was able to do that. Um, and what I learned through it was like, this being chosen, a thing that I'm very much feeling right now, where he's like, nope, please don't go, is not enough.
No.
It's just not enough. And my values are sort of being reassessed as like, okay, so we've been chosen. Do we still think that that's the end goal, Brianna?
Yeah.
Because methinks that would be not a good life and not the one that you've been working so hard for.
Yeah. And this is where that word and is so imperative because it's like I want to be chosen and I want to experience stability and I
Right.
want to experience peace and I want to experience clarity and I want to experience playfulness and I want to experience and like that's the thing. It's like I think when we hyperfixate on one value or one feeling and we forget the others, it's like and if I'm being like I'm going to laugh at myself now, but this exercise has been one I've since I started my business, and every single client I've had does this exercise, and I call it a values and priorities inventory, where you literally go through, you list it out, then you define it for you because the reality is like the way I define playfulness isn't going to be the way you or whatever.
Right.
And same with
Right.
communication, same with
Right.
everything else. And so then you
Yeah.
define it and you rate it. Like I have this whole like partner formula, but I say all that to say, like, you know, we all get to decide how we want to feel in a relationship. And when we hyperfixate on one sensation instead of the collective experience, we can get really lost in the sauce because it's like, yeah, I feel chosen, but then I don't feel stability or I don't feel clarity or I don't feel at peace or I don't feel, and it's like, but I want to feel chosen and all these other things. So it's
Mm.
like, for lack of a better way to put it, y'all don't settle.
Don't settle. I very much have identified with the experience of the stories that come to mind happen to come from a lot of women. I know that this is true for lots of different
Mm,
people, but the stories that I'm familiar with come from women. So I'm going to say a lot of girls, like I identify with a lot of girls that have been in the experience of like it is so tempting to say yes to a person who is making promises and especially dishing out some words and some verbiage
that we love to
that you have,
hear.
yeah, that you are like have been wanting to hear, have been wishing to hear. And honestly, if you're really honest with yourself, maybe felt like you never were ever gonna hear. Um,
Mm,
and it is so tempting to like sign on. And I just want people to feel like it is okay to want more. That doesn't mean that you're being too picky. It doesn't mean that
no.
like be realistic about the people that you're choosing. Like they're
Yeah.
people. They're not perfect. They're
Yes.
you can't date an idea of a person. You need to date the person, and that comes with them being flawed. Engage in that. And
Yeah.
if you know that this actually isn't enough for you, don't just sign on, settle, because being with a person, even this person who can't give
Yeah.
you what you need, is better than being alone. Trust me, babe. Being alone is way better.
100%. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with someone who isn't meeting your needs and the
Mm-hmm.
feelings that you need to feel. It makes you feel more lonely than just being single.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
so alienating. And I think what you're touching on, a way that I would like to phrase it is like get really clear on your needs versus your wants in a relationship. Like we have needs that are like absolutely like I need security, I need communication, I need, and then we have wants that are things like I need playfulness, I need, I don't know, whatever other value you want to throw in there that's more of a want. But it's like when we need to get clear on those things because not there's not a relationship that's ever going to be perfect and hit every single nail on the head. So it's like you need to know what you're willing to kind of not part ways with, but maybe not have as like a deal, quote unquote, deal breaker
Right.
versus things that are like, no, I need these things. I need these core
Yeah.
things in a relationship, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks
I'm
for
really
letting me
fucking
be
proud of
vulnerable.
you.
Thank you. I wanted to say this. You and I were checking in before this earlier, and I think what's really helped me set boundaries with a person that I need to set boundaries with right now, and it's really I'm setting boundaries for myself, and
Exactly.
and I'm
Yes.
I'm setting them in a way where this person is either choosing to respect them or not. Right now, they're being respected, but the reason why I've been able to set boundaries in the way that I am right now is because we talk about this so much on this
Mm,
show and together as friends. And
yeah.
I have really meaningful conversations with you and a few
Mm-hmm.
other important people in my life that have continued to reinforce that it is okay to like hold your own word on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like knowing that I I deserve to be in a relationship that is like being treated that the relationship is being treated with the respect that of the space that it takes up. And
Mm,
like I think because I have a really good community and I like we get on here and we talk about this stuff like it now feels inauthentic to me to
mm.
not put my money where my fucking mouth is.
So I feel that so hard. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel that so hard. And in a way, like I kind of love it because like it really is like another layer of accountability because that's totally I feel the exact
totally.
same
It's
way.
exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exactly it.
So, oh, damn. I love it.
So thanks to you and to us because it helps.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It
Mm-hmm.
does
Mm-hmm.
help.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So Love is Blind Japan.
Love is Blind Japan. Yo, I was like, after the first hurdle of like the first two episodes, I was able to like watch these and track things way better.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know about you,
Getting to get, oh
but
my God, same. But also, it had been a while since I watched like the first two episodes. So it was sort of like a reintroduction of everyone's names.
mm,
But Love is Blind. Okay, maybe not everyone has pen and paper or notes app up in the way that
this
we
is true.
do.
Yeah.
But because we're like taking notes, it is so overwhelming to start Love is Blind because there's like 30 fucking people.
I
Same with like The
know.
Bachelorette. It's like, oh my God, who is this
Yeah.
person? How am I choosing to identify them in a way that's meaningful
Yes.
so I remember them?
I
Like,
know.
it's a true test of memory. Add in a totally different culture and names that are totally foreign to, as we said earlier, to dumb
Yeah.
white bitches. You
Yeah.
know, it's a lot to get hip to, but I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for it because it's amazing. I love the
Yeah.
show.
I know, me too. And I it's been really fun to actually watch. It's just so culturally different. Like
Yeah.
and I I actually made a really shitty joke in here. We'll see if I make it during the I don't
Okay.
know. It might be too inappropriate and I'll just share it with you off like sidebar with you on it. But
Yep.
let me just put it like this. Alex is contemplating fuck, I just talked about myself in the third person. Your
You
girl
haven't
is
done that in a while.
contemplating. I haven't. And then it came back with vengeance. Um, I'm contemplating where the emotional intelligence and respect like it's so ingrained in their culture compared to what we see in American
In
culture that
America.
I'm like where is it like where how can we like take this and like bring it into our sphere and so yeah, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I agree and like it's been interesting. So like the next two episodes that we're going to cover are 3 and 4 and basically like it's the pods wrapping up and like
Yeah.
it's definitely like the show's editing is like it's trying to provide the through line of how we get to the eventual like couples that we get to. Um but I it some people and some couples are expressing a lot of authenticity and a lot of vulnerability like when they're talking about like you know what are your weaknesses like in less of an interviewee type of way like they're really being honest but at the same time sometimes I'm like are some of you like getting real with each other like I need a little bit more grit. And I don't mean that in the American, like inappropriate, let's talk about our sex languages type of thing.
Mhm.
I just mean like some folks I just felt like or maybe the editing cut out a lot, but I just didn't feel like so many people were really like getting to know each other. And then we eventually start to see that kind of reveals itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right in.
Let's dive in.
Ayano and Yudai is who I first have notes on.
Yeah. Talking about money.
Talking about money. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that's something that a lot of couples avoid talking about. And I get it, but I think it's necessary at some point, especially when you're on a show where you're going to get engaged and supposedly
Mm-hmm.
married. So I
Mm-hmm.
totally understand them talking about that. I thought it was really interesting how Ayano was hyper fixated on, like, I don't have body language cues to read. Like, she very much, that's like been making her feel super uncomfortable. Um
Mm.
yeah. And
I think I would feel
so
similarly.
me too. Yeah,
Uh,
cuz you don't
most of
know.
like how I interpret the world is because of body language.
Yeah.
Me specifically, like I can hear what people are saying, but like my I'm not inclined to trust people when I just hear what they're saying. Like I body language is like everything.
Yeah. Yeah, having a conversation over the phone, over text, are like all of, they're all so different. You know, it's like text, you lose tonality and body language, which is why we have these cute little things called emojis to try and like communicate that. Then over the
Yeah.
phone, it's like you at least get tonality, but then you don't get any facial expressions or emojis or body
Yeah.
language. And then you have in person, which is like chef's kiss, like best experience because you get it all. Um,
Yeah.
but man, I cannot imagine
Totally.
being in a pod. Yeah. But the thing that comes up for Ayano as we watch her talk to her different gentlemen callers,
Yeah.
is that she keeps saying, "You're the only one I've talked about blank with." And so at first it's like, "Oh, I haven't talked about finances with someone before. Oh, I
Right.
haven't talked about this with someone before." And da-na-na, the guys start talking in their gentleman quarters about their
Yeah.
experience with Ayano and realize that she's telling multiple people that you're the only person I've talked to about it. And so now people are starting to decide that she's not quite trustworthy.
Yeah, which I'm glad that the boys did that. Like, if I'm honest, like, I'm surprised we don't see way more of that content in the Love is Blind world. Like,
Yeah.
if you and I were in our women's quarters and we were like dating the same people, you and I would have been like, who's saying what to everyone? Let's
Yeah.
let's compare notes. We're taking all of these notes for what, people? Let's
Yeah.
compare notes.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
But
like it would be
I
really wild. Go ahead.
it would be, yeah. I just, my thing with Ayano is like, and I think that this is like a personal struggle that she's currently living out, but um I feel I would just love to know like where's her relationship with herself at in this place,
Yeah.
because it seems like she's very expressive, but it feels like expressive with a purpose, not necessarily like expressive coming from herself.
Yeah. And can we jump to what she says eventually?
Yeah.
So Ayano, she starts to open up with Ari in the women's quarters about like her past relationships and how she's trying to use her past relationship experiences, like the lessons she's learned, to like impact the decision she's going to make today. And then what ends up coming out is that she moved around a lot as a kid with her family, and so she very much admits, like, I'm really used to putting other people's needs before me. And she starts to
Mm,
describe a fawn response, which is a
mm,
survival state.
mhm.
And I feel like that's what we're seeing with her, is she's kind of trying to figure out, like, who do I need to be chosen here?
Right.
And who do I want to be chosen by, which is going to dictate how I be. And I think that's really what we're seeing, which breaks my heart, because it's like, that just goes to show the Ayano's relationship with herself is lacking, because there isn't that
Mhm.
clarity of like, who am I? Who do I want to choose? Like, how do I want my
Yeah.
partner to show up for me? Like, that kind of language isn't forward facing for her. Like, she's
Yeah.
way more like, who's going to choose me? Who do I need to be to choose? Like, you know, and that's, she's very focused on what they are thinking of her instead of the other way around like, am I
Right.
going to choose someone who's a good fit for me?
Right.
Um and I think that's why, like, she kind of has this scripting that comes up, because she's trying to be chosen, you
Right.
know?
Right. So
Yeah.
where the men who are able to compare notes see this as like, oh, she's not trustworthy. What we get this is why you can't make too many judgments about a person
No,
from
you don't
just
fucking
from I
know.
mean, you don't know. But for her, it's like I'm using what feels accessible to me to hopefully land myself a partner. And
Yeah.
in her own interviews, and it's not manipulative. It's just like she wants to be chosen, like you said. But in her interviews privately, you can tell that she's looking for a person that brings out elements of herself. She's really seeking to find a partner that helps her meet her own being.
Yeah.
And that is not the most effective way to do that.
Correct. It's a
And
very painful way to do it.
it's painful. And I think while I don't have an exact science of this, like what we see in these next two episodes is Ayano being not chosen by a number of different people that she was talking to. She was
Yeah.
talking to Yudai. She was talking to Sho, who wanted to be with her. She was talking to um, a couple different guys. I don't even remember. Oh, Shintaro. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, anyway, there was a bunch
Maury,
of different people. Yep. Maury, that's right. That's right. She was really bummed out
Jinya.
about Maury. Yes. So every time she sees one of the other girls be chosen or proposed to by a guy that she was connecting with, it really hurts her because she's like, oh my God. But I think this is where I don't have the exact science, but if I had to take a guess, because she is not so familiar with who she is and what she wants and how to just represent that in an authentic way, she is using her scripts and she's engaging in the formula that she believes is going to land her a partner. And the reason why these people are probably not choosing her is because they don't feel like they're actually really connecting with her.
Yeah. Yes, people can read that. It's like it's so I don't want to say obvious, but it's like it's like a palpable energy where it's like
Mm.
when you're like have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they say something and you just get like this weird feeling of like, oh, that just doesn't quite add up, and you can't quite put your finger on it, but it's like you can just sense like that's a half truth, or they're not saying more that with like than what they are, but there's more there. Like it's very
Mm-hmm.
similar. Let me put it like this. And I used this analogy with you the other day in our voice note, but it's like that moment where when someone asks, like if you ask someone like, are you okay? And they're like, I'm fine. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, it's kind
not
of
fine.
like that kind of energy where it's like it might not be so aggressive in nature, but it's this sense of like what you were saying energetically isn't landing. Like there's just a
Yeah.
disconnect there. And so yeah, when we're trying to meet people, and this is where I always say like I mean, the way that I teach dating when it comes to leading with your authenticity, it's very similar to marketing. Like, when you think of a brand, like Victoria's Secret's a great fucking example because there's people who love it and there's people who fucking hate it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
of what? Like the type of body image they,
Yeah.
rah
Historically,
behind and
yeah.
shit like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And like also their coloring and like it's black and
Yeah.
pink and it's very
Yeah.
vibrant. And like, so it's like, Victoria's Secret as a brand isn't meant for everybody, right? But the
It's
people
certainly
that
not.
love them have like a cult like following. Like they only buy Victoria's Secret lingerie and
True.
undies and pan, blah, blah,
True.
blah. Okay,
True.
so now let's go to dating, right? Not everyone's going to love you, right? But the people who
Mm.
fucking love you will be your cult like following. And so it's like,
Mm.
that's where what I mean by like your vibe attracts your tribe. When you lead with your authenticity, yes, there are going to be people who reject you, but so fucking be it. Like they aren't your
Yeah.
people. Whereas
Yeah.
when you do lead with your authenticity, that's what becomes the magnet for the type of partner that you keep daydreaming about, right? The one
Right.
that feeling of like my partner just gets me will only happen if you let yourself be truly seen. And
Mm.
yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
scary. Yes, it can feel uncomfortable. And at the same time, it's so fucking worth it in the end.
Yeah, and what I would say is that this is probably why Ayano being on this show at this exact time is probably not the best for her because she just needs to meet herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes time. Like
It
to do
does.
what you are talking about, Alex, is like so true. Way more effective and it takes a lot of work. It's very fulfilling work. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful to be able to like learn how to meet yourself.
Hmm.
I feel this way about my clients all of the time, like especially folks who really struggle with self-esteem. And sometimes, depending on the relationship, depending on the person, I'm just like, you have no idea how cool you are. And I
Yeah.
mean that. You have no
Yeah.
idea how fucking cool you are. And
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to meet who you are and
Yeah.
realize who I speak to
100%.
every week.
Yeah. I
It's
kind of had that
wild.
conversation with a client this week because they were like, they were talking about like career stuff that's coming up. And this person is very much a drummer, like eat
Yeah.
like drumline, like their whole life. They're in their 40s now, right? And they're like, what's my purpose? IT jobs haven't worked out for me. This and I'm like, whoa, okay, never once have I looked at you and thought you're an IT person. You are a drummer. You are a
Yeah.
performer. Like
Yeah.
that is in your
Yeah.
blood. So it's like
Yeah.
I think it's we do this to ourselves where we get so wrapped up on like when someone goes, who are you? It's like, oh, I'm a coach. It's like, no, that's my profession. That's not who I
Yeah.
am. Who I am is
Yeah.
this silly, dorky, playful girl that fucking loves being a spaz, but also loves going deep. That's who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's not these labels that we put on ourselves or the career that we choose or whatever, you know? So for whoever
Yeah.
needed to hear that, it's like every single person on this planet has something special about them. It just gets
Hmm.
clouded by the societal issues and labels and then also trauma and like all this other shit, and it's like that little part of you that's that little baby seed that's so deep in there, it's so worth it to let it bloom because
So
like
true.
yeah, at the end of the day you're so worthy and valuable. Yeah.
Word. Period. So Ayana would benefit from doing a lot of that work, and unfortunately see her sort of get passed over by a bunch
A
of different
couple
people, while
times.
other relationships are connecting and forming, and they're not perfect. But it's truly people who are like trying to discuss their values and what they want in a partner and what they want for their lives, and honestly, like talking about money is a great place to navigate that. And so it can feel like rejection when you talk about important stuff and you realize that these people aren't jiving with you. Um, but still glad that we do it. Glad that we
Yeah.
talk about money and have these difficult conversations. Um, okay. So,
Where do we want
uh,
to go next?
well, there's a couple people that are like introduced for the very first time ever.
I know.
I was like, wait, who is this? Why haven't we spent any time with them so far? Show is one of them. Show is like a 28-year-old owner of a design firm, very self-conscious about his looks. He's like such a sweet boy. Also,
Yeah.
probably needs to do some self-esteem building because even his posture and his
I
oh my god, his all of his body
know.
language and his hair, cutie hair, cutie being, but everything is very like I want to
Yeah.
hide.
Yeah.
Um, which he says he thinks that he struggles to date because of his looks. I think he struggles to date because he has no confidence.
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with his looks. I think that he feels like it's his looks and therefore he wears that.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Oh
um
man,
yeah.
we can be our own worst enemies when we like hold on to these identities or limiting beliefs, and then it
Yeah.
becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, cuz Show's dope. I feel like he also will make such a great partner when he does find himself and like own who he is. Um and I loved that conversation that he ended up having with Odachi, but we'll get there in a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we see Show. The first note I have on Show is with Ayano. Is that same for you?
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I'm not skipping anybody.
No. I think you probably took better notes this go around than I did, but
I hope so.
I'm following your lead. Let's go.
Yeah. And so Show starts asking Ayano really good questions about like uh but honestly kind of sniffing out the trail that we were just talking about, and he's like, I don't know if it comes from past trauma, but like I'm just curious to know, like I'm, you're not like he felt like she wasn't fully expressing herself in some way.
Yeah.
And so she starts to say like, in the past I've not expressed my true self. I've also ignored like the vices of my partners. And then she actually kind of flips it around and is like can I ask why you're being so vulnerable with me? I think
Yeah.
like her, like him being like trying to get her to open up very much made her feel vulnerable. And so for her to try and mask like her discomfort, she very much flipped it around and was like, hey, why are you being vulnerable with me? You know?
Right. Right.
Um yeah, and he just goes to like encourage her and is like, I want you to be yourself, you know? And he also starts to say like, I feel like I've been putting up a front, and he felt that Ayano broke that for him.
Mm.
So it's really funny how the two people with the wanting to be chosen,
Mm-hmm.
right, are kind of like having these very vulnerable conversations around like their own insecurities that are coming up. Um, and I thought it was honestly a really beautiful conversation, but it
Yeah.
kind of stops there. Hmm.
Yeah. The end of the last episode, we see Ayano write Showa a letter, but we don't yet learn what's in it. But you can tell from body language that it's not good.
It's not good. No.
It's
Yeah.
not good. Um,
Yeah.
you know who we also meet? I'm gonna shift gears for a sec. We
Yeah.
meet Mizuki. Do you know who
Yes.
that
Here we
is?
go.
He's
The one that,
29. He owns a
yes.
steakhouse.
Yeah.
He
Yeah. Yeah.
sweeps Priya off her feet.
Off her feet. Yep.
I and
That's
I
right.
this is the thing about the way that this editing and like the episode layout is like tripping me out. I get it. They do this so differently than like the American one.
Agreed. Yeah, they do.
It's so interesting. But we meet him, and up until this point in this episode, we literally have never seen him before.
Nope.
Um and we only know that Priya had been speaking to Wataru, and so it's so interesting to see what ends up happening with Wataru. And I'm like, oh, this is why Priya is so chill about this moment, because she's chatting a dude that
She
she
has
has
options.
she's got options,
Yeah.
girl.
Yes.
And Mizuki is spending time on our girl Priya.
Yeah. I love that they're both entrepreneurs because what Priya said about Mizuki in the women's quarters after we first see their first interaction, I completely understand as an entrepreneur myself and totally get, where she's talking about like, be as an entrepreneur, there are certain calculated risks you need to take, and like, you know, it's not like just this stagnant, like, you know, I clock in, I clock out for work, like type
Mhm.
vibes. And so she really values having a partner who, one, understands that about her and is willing to support her and the risks that she takes. So she really loved getting to know Mizuki. And what we find out about him is like his first business went bankrupt. And he was like, I dug myself out of that. And he's like, and now I'm trying again. And she loved that. She's like, even though he kind of went through hell and back, he didn't give up on his dreams. He's still pursuing it and all of that. And so she really values that in the potential partnership she could establish with him. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I
Anything you want to add?
feel I feel closely like I identify with Priya a lot in these episodes, but I'm having like an awareness thought of, because she is so closely immersed in American culture. I think that that's why I feel that way. It's not even
Mm,
so like because I appreciate how she shows up. She shows up in like a pretty authentic, and I think she's like a really great lady. Like she's a cool
me too.
girl.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm definitely finding myself feeling in alignment with her because I'm like, she feels familiar to me. And again, I
Mm,
think that has 100% to do with her own familiarity with American culture, which is definitely why I feel that way. But uh, I just, yeah, I appreciate her approach in getting to know both Mizuki and Wataru. Like, I think that she is really leading first. She knows who she is. This is definitely a person who's not really in the same place as Ayano is, where it's
correct.
not even a difference of quality women. They're both quality women. Um, that it's she knows who she is and she knows what she wants, and she's even prepared to say faults that she has, or
Yeah.
areas that she is not, she like knows that maybe someone would see them as like red flags, and she's like, I'm not even looking to develop these qualities,
Yeah.
like this is just where my limit is. Like I don't do a lot of uh cooking at home. Like I don't do a
Yeah.
lot of cleaning at home. It's just like not my vibe. And she
Yeah.
owns it in a way where she's not apologetic about it. And I think it's helping her navigate the dating scene.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, Priya's dope. And you can see all that in the way that she carries herself too. You know? Like even in the women's quarters, like how she kind of
Mm.
just
Mm-hmm.
cuddles up on the couch. Like you can just see it in her own body language, like how comfortable she is with her, you know?
Yeah.
Other people we meet for the first time, Minami and Jinya, right? I
Oh,
don't even
yeah.
remember them from 1 and 2,
Wait.
episodes 1 and 2.
We know Minami had been connecting with Mori. We just see a lot more of Minami.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay,
saw
cool.
Minami, like we saw in the first two episodes, Mori was like, because they were connecting on like Mori's Korean, Minami's half Korean. And so they were
Right.
connecting with their like similar cultural backgrounds and having those cultural backgrounds and living in Japan. But we see Mori struggle with making a decision, but we don't really see so much of their connection. These next two episodes, we see them share a lot of time together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was the other person that
Um,
you said was brand new?
I hope I'm not butchering their name. Jinya? I might
I don't
be
even know.
saying it or pronouncing it or spelling it wrong.
What
Um,
how's it spelled? You
well, this
guys.
is this is how Alex sounded it out. So I spelled
Yeah.
it Jinya. I highly doubt that that's
I
correct.
don't even sorry.
No,
Uh
it's not your
indi-
fault. This might be an
individual.
Alex's. I'm
No,
gonna
I don't have a single note on this person. So, can you in the
maybe I'm
context?
making up the name. They were
Okay.
talking. Oh, so this person in Minami were talking about the bath towel thing. She was like,
Oh.
how often do you use your bath towel
I
before
think
you
she
wash
asked
it?
Maury that.
Wait, what?
I think you made
No.
up a soul.
Did I?
I think
Oh,
you
Jesus.
I think you
Okay.
made up a soul.
No. Okay.
She asked Maury that because Maury was like cracking up. He was like, she's so weird.
Okay. And then the next question she asks is, what would you do if it was your last day on Earth? I really feel that these are great questions, honestly, because
I
one's going to
agree.
give you clarity on like the cleanliness of a person, and the other
Yeah.
one is going to give you a clarity on like the values. Like, what would you do if it was your last day here? Like, what do you value? Like, what are you going to
Yeah.
find yourself doing?
Yeah.
You know?
She's I really love her, by the way. I think she's like a quirky turkey. And but I think that she's also like in the ways in which she's like asking like kind of off the cuff questions, they're not that
Yeah.
quirky. I mean, maybe culturally this is like really quirky. Um, but I love how like Maury is taking all of Minami's like isms in and being like, she's so weird. And I think I like that about her. Like, I think
Yeah.
I like that she's like just says exactly what's on her mind. And yeah.
The only thing that I was like, was
What?
when Maury, I'm assuming it's Maury, this made up
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
um,
you straight up downloaded
I like,
a soul from your brain.
I was reading the subtitle because I'm watching it dubbed and with subtitles to try,
Yeah,
but like they don't show the typed out American name. So it's like if I
I
miss
know.
it so quick,
Oh,
I could
it's
have
gone. It's gone.
sworn. Yeah, I could have sworn so bad. It's a good thing I'm not a gambling person. Anyway,
Yeah.
he says, my ideal relationship, they don't fight. And that was
Mm.
like,
I had the same
okay,
note. I had the same note. And so
yeah,
we know where this comes from. Maury's like, did you
yes.
think that this was this other person, by the way?
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah,
Whole
it's
time.
Maury. It's Maury.
Okay. Great.
Um,
Awesome. Alex is a little delusional when she watches this show, apparently.
it's
Fuck, I did it
okay.
again. God damn
It's
it.
okay. It's okay.
I
So what's interesting is like yeah, because I wrote this down and Morris says is because his parents fought a lot, he doesn't want to fight. The thing is like, and they were talking about praising children, which was an interesting
yes.
conversation. Um,
Yes.
when you have some family trauma, little t, big T, it's not for me to say, it doesn't
Any kind of
matter.
tea.
Any kind of T, when you have any family trauma, I really like find that it's important, especially around fighting. It's like, yes, I understand why it's important for you to not be in a marriage and have a family in which you had the same um, energy that
Yep.
and way of communicating that was displayed. Clearly that was unhealthy for you because you're like, I don't want that. But please, we have to stop confusing like emotional verbal abuse with fighting.
I know.
Fighting is always going you're just like
Always.
because you're setting yourself up for failure. Fighting will
Exactly.
always be relevant. Always.
Yes.
How we fight is important.
Different. Exactly. It's like there can be conflict, and like I think that's the thing is like people hear the word fight and they think like ding ding dukes up like pop 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 pop.
Yeah, yeah.
And for if you don't watch our YouTube channel, I just threw some punches.
She did it good.
But
I'm scared.
no, she's terrified. Like, that isn't the vibe. Like, we don't want it to be like me, like your partner versus you. Like, no, it's you two against the problem. And
Hmm.
actually Midori and Wataru kind of allude to that later on, which I was like, look, they haven't even had their first conflict yet, but the mindset they just both described is completely accurate. And so it's
Hmm.
like one, I think like, there's this thing around don't fight in front of your kids. I personally disagree with that. I think there's a difference. Like, if it's something that the kids shouldn't hear, like something around like financial stress, like things that children shouldn't worry about, that's one thing. But I think
Yeah.
modeling healthy conflict resolution in front of your children is huge,
Yeah.
because that's how they learn.
Yeah.
Um, it like literally that's how they learn. But you need to mind your p's and q's, like it's basic kindergarten rules, like treat others the way you want to be treated. So when it comes to this idea of like fighting and conflict resolution within relationships, it's like don't yell at somebody. There's science that shows how triggering that is. And two, your survival response goes off, your ear bones close, so you can't hear as well, you can't think logically, like it causes anxiety and depression. Like just don't yell. Like there's no reason to raise your voice.
Hmm.
And then use I statements and appropriate language. And if you need to take a timeout because you're getting heated, take a timeout. But like, it's just a conversation. That's all true conflict resolution needs to be. Hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what caused these feelings. Moving forward, can we do this instead? This is,
Hmm.
or sometimes you might not even know the solution yet. It's like, hey, I'm not quite sure what the solution looks like yet, but I'd love to kind of brainstorm. Like next time this comes up, how could we navigate it better? Right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that's what we need. But it's unrealistic to think that your partner's never going to trigger you, your partner's never going to hurt your feelings. Like these things are going to happen because humans are very imperfect people that are, and then when you get into a relationship you're around each other all the time, so it's like shit's gonna
Totally.
happen. Doesn't mean they're a
And
shitty partner or the wrong person for you.
exactly. And this tees things up terribly for your partner, especially if you're if a person who says, I don't want fighting in my relationship, and you find yourself in a relationship with a people pleaser, which is like so many of us. Me, the people pleaser, is going to be in
Recovering.
that relationship. Yeah, it's going to be, yeah, people pleasing recovery. We are both
Yeah.
in PPR. Um, you're putting that people pleaser in a position where they're like, I have something to say because I'm bothered by something, but they said that they don't want to fight. So I don't know what to do with
Zip.
this. So I'm just going to, yeah, they're going to shut down. They're going to
Yeah.
shut down and you miss every opportunity. Maury really needs to learn about the Gottman research. He needs to learn about the Four
Yes.
Horsemen, read up on the Four Horsemen, and start having conversations, babe.
Yes. Um,
Okay.
I just want to go back to Jinya. They do it. I looked up the cast. They do
Okay.
exist.
Okay.
They're 26 hair and makeup stylists. So
I
I'm
am
not that delusional.
so sorry for gaslighting you.
No, you did it. I didn't take it that way. First of all, I just had to know because I was like, "Oh my god,
Okay, who
am
are
I
they?
that old?"
How do you spell their name? I need to look them up really quickly.
Jinya. Here, do you want me to just text you the link real quick?
No, no, no. I'm on this.
Okay.
I'm like white on freaking rice.
Like
I just
white
need to
on
see it.
free.
I just need to see a photo. I just need to see a photo, and we're vamping because my
If you
internet kind of sucks.
if you put Netflix Love is Blind Japan cast, that's like, and
Yeah,
there's
I'm
no
just
spoiler
looking up for like
visual.
the oh shit, these fucking I sorry, the images
You're
are
good.
spoiling things for me.
No,
Anyway,
don't look.
yeah,
Avert your eyes.
I know, I
He
know, I know.
exists though. I'm just happy about
It's
that.
a man. It's a man.
Yeah.
It's one of the boys. Okay.
It's one of the
Well,
boys.
well, joke's on me. Yeah,
No,
I just don't remember meeting him.
that's okay. This is one of the people that, according to my notes, Ayano is shares with Jinya that she adapts to other people's moods instead of saying what she wants to say, which is
Mm,
exactly what Brie was just saying. That's a people pleaser. So it's
yeah,
like Ayano and Mori, who are not the just to backtrack because I don't want people to get confused. Minami and Mori are the people having the conversation around I don't want to fight, right? But
yeah,
if Ayano was having that conversation with Mori, that would just further propel her people pleaser response that she already knows is a thing for her. So it's like
100%.
not that would not be a good couple to be together, you know?
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah. Okay, where
Okay.
are we going next?
I want to talk about Wataru and Midori.
Priya and Midori, the love
Priya,
triangle.
Priya, Midori, Wataru. So where we kind of pick up here is Midori in true Midori fashion. I feel
Hmm.
like I know her.
Girl. Yeah. Okay. This
I
was
feel like I know
hilarious.
her. I loved it. She like presents him with like a document on like
Yeah.
tax paper. It's so funny. Um uh she presents him with like a full document of like basically saying this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. Um
This is who I know you to be so far.
yeah, this is what I don't want. And she literally like bullets it. And if you know, when you're paying close attention to the show like we are, it calls back to Midori's like introduction of herself where she's like, I date with a checklist. I'm very immersed in my work. She works for an American company, I think. And she it she listen, she's a logistics queen. She's
Mhm.
like, I have a lot of emotional needs, but you best believe I'm going to put them down on paper for you to read as a statement.
For
I
real.
felt like she was like, these were meeting minutes from like a team meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, 100. She was like, "So if you continue on to the next page of the document," like
It's
it was
hysterical.
hysterical.
And I think it really worked in her favor. And I think if it was a different type of person that was
Agreed.
receiving that document, maybe it wouldn't have landed. It would have felt maybe a
Landed.
little too serious, a little too. I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's just the exact expression of where she's at and what she's looking for in the
Yeah.
most authentic way to her as possible. Like
Yep.
make it, it helped it make sense in her brain, and it happened to be shared with a person who kind of operates in a similar way and wasn't put off by that. Also married to his work a little and just like looked at all of that. And he was like, I think he was getting a kick out of it. He was like, oh yeah, of course. The next page. Um,
Yeah.
but he says, he was like, this helped me feel closer to you. And what I wasn't expecting, which was kind of lovely to see, is he took accountability for how patient Midori was
Yeah.
through Wataru's like decision making process because he was
Yeah.
struggling. And he was
Yeah.
like, you've been really patient with me, and I haven't been so clear about my feelings because I'm ad libbing here because he was still trying to figure out his feelings. Like, he ended up breaking things off with Priya, and that was very hard for him. He
Yeah.
seemed
I
pretty
I did not
emotionally invested in
expect
that.
it after the donuts. I'm happy because I do for some reason feel like he's a better fit with Midori. Just from the get-go, I've
Yeah.
been like, there, that's it. Um,
Yeah.
but and so when he got Priya donuts, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I know.
um but yeah, I loved that he was able to be like, look, like I choose my words very intentionally because I don't want to hurt anyone or lead anybody on. So I'm sorry that I haven't been as like forthcoming with how I feel. And by the way, thank you so much for being so patient and for not like letting, I feel like what Wataru was trying to say, again, also paraphrasing, is he was like, thanks for not letting where I am at impact how you show up. Like,
Mm,
Midori stayed true to Midori and kept showing up and kept having these conversations.
hmm.
Even when Wataru was like, you know,
Yeah. What am I going to do?
yeah, juggling. That's the word I'm looking
Yeah.
for. His two
And he
love
was
interests.
like, he was withholding I'm sure a lot of expressions of interest. Uh, and I can appreciate how that would feel shitty to someone who is like feeling so sure about him.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a better alternative than being like, I really like you. Yeah, I like you so much. Like, oh, this is what our life could be like together. And like fully going all in and then being all in with someone else and then like having to backtrack. Like,
Yep. Agreed.
I would rather someone be a little cautious and not tell me everything, not like fill my head up with dreams and ideas of what our life could be like, than the alternative.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so Wataru ends up proposing and she says yes. And then
Yeah.
Wataru ends up going to Priya. Um, and just very honestly is like, look, I have feelings for you, but when I think of marriage and a lifelong commitment, I, feel I'm a better fit with somebody else. And as we mentioned earlier, Priya handles it like a champ and is just like, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. Wish you all the best. Hope you find what you're looking for. The end. Now, here's what I thought was really interesting. Midori and Priya end up like Midori is hugging Priya and consoling Priya after she gets done. So I'm like, do you
Mm-hmm.
know that you guys is it the same person? Because if so, that's like
They
even
know.
more of a beautiful friendship. That was
They
so
know.
cute. It
Mm-hmm.
was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
But like, fuck the emotional maturity to do that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
ladies. Thank you,
I
ladies,
know.
for leading by example and not letting a man get between your friendship.
Totally. I'm curious to see what kind of friendship they have once they like reconnect. Um,
Yeah.
but however, I feel the same way. Like, and it brought me back to what Midori had said in the first or second episode, where she was like, no matter what happens between you and I, like this experience has been so good for me. I've been supported
Mm,
by such amazing people, amazing women. And in my heart, I wanted to believe that she was also sort of speaking to the fact that like she feels safe even in the mixed company of like a woman who's dating the same person that she's dating.
for real.
So I was just like, I just felt like it. Again, we're gonna see how this plays out, but I felt like in my bones, I was like, she's just probably getting some really fucking good, like women supporting women life.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah. 100. So yay, they get engaged. And then we're gonna go back to Ayano.
Mm.
Ayano and Shantaru, who is our oldest gentleman on the show, oldest contestant on the show. He's
And
56.
probably like richest. There's still some mentioning about like his money and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got
Um
bags.
uh yeah, they start to have a really interesting conversation where he actually asks her to be totally quiet for a whole minute and just sit in silence with him. I'm curious to know
I
what you
love
thought
that.
about that. Me too.
I like it. Yeah, I'm into
Yeah.
it. Like, um, I'm wondering why he did it. Do we have context on why he did that?
I think it's because he could pick up on her being in her head, like a little bit,
Mm.
like kind of as we've seen Ayano. And I think
Mm-hmm.
she was, I don't know if rambling's the right word, but there was whatever she was expressing before felt very like she was popping out, very heady and like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so he just was like, okay, like let's bring it down. Like let's be quiet for a whole minute and just like breathe, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I loved that. I love that he did that. If I'm being honest, I can get like that. And I've already told my partner, I'm like, sometimes my anxiety can pop off and I just need someone to remind me that I'm going to be okay and like everything's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And like just remind me to breathe and just hold me and be there with me, like instead of
Mm-hmm.
trying to like fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I felt like that's kind of what he was aiming for when he asked that of her. And she did it. I think at first she was resistant to it. I think she was like, wait, what? I can't be quiet for a minute. And then finally she just was like, she put her head down and was like, okay,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I felt
Yeah.
like she was falling asleep, but I think silence. This is very intentional silence spent with another person, but I think silence in general with your partner can be very illuminating of how safe you feel with that person. Um, and
So
don't get me
true.
wrong, like asterisk is mental health and anxiety may play a role and show up regardless of how safe this person is for you. Like for those of us that have anxiety, like a minute of silence is just really fucking uncomfortable, and it doesn't always reflect like what's going on. But uh yeah, I think that it's nice to be able to know that you can do something like that with each other and feel like it's okay. They were really regulating. That felt like a
Yeah.
co-regulating
Yeah.
exercise that wasn't named
Yeah.
as such.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Agreed. Yeah. Um, and so he ends up eventually like giving her a photography book. Apparently he's super into art. She was able to take that and kind of peruse it, and they talked about it. And then he could do you have notes on oh, here we go. I'm like reading my notes around where he opens up. Oh, he starts to say, like, you're my number one. I feel like I've been playing it too cool. I haven't really been letting you know how I feel about you. And she ends up crying probably because she's like, oh my God, here I am being chosen. And so that part of her
Yeah.
feels so like loved and validated.
I'm
And so
sensing a
she,
theme in our
so she,
episode.
yeah. So she cries, and I love what he said. He's like, you're allowed to cry as much as you want, which I fucking love because I'm
Mhm.
so. We've talked about this, especially last year when we were unpacking Love Island, but like we see it a lot when, like, again, talking in heteronormatives here, but it can even happen no matter how you identify or
Mm.
the orientation. But like, people, if they're uncomfortable with someone crying, they will
Mhm.
an effort to console, they'll be like, stop crying, it's okay, it's nothing to cry about. And
Mhm.
it's like,
You don't have to
no, that's
cry.
the yeah, that's the most invalidating thing. And so I love that he said the complete opposite and was like, you're allowed to cry as much as you want. I was like,
Mhm.
that's probably the sexiest thing I've heard on this show. uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So Ayano goes back to the women's quarters and kind of realizes that she's made up her mind as far as who
Yeah.
she's going to choose between Shintaro and Sho. And then
Yeah.
she heads over to Sho, and dun
Leaves a
dun dun, we
letter.
reach the end of these
Yeah.
episodes because
Yeah.
she sends him a letter,
A letter. You know what
a
I
breakup
love
letter.
about this Love is Blind? Uh like when they talk about who they are having feelings for, like privately, and sometimes they'll say it to each other, but they'll be like, this person moved me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of all of the people I connected with, like good people, but this person moved me. And I was like, that's a fucking statement.
It
I
is.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. I also love that they actually use these boxes. I don't even know if they have these boxes in the American
I
version.
love the secret boxes.
I love the secret boxes. It's like you can pass things to each other. I feel like that enables more connection. And so I'm
Yeah.
just so curious, like, do we just not use them because we're that like deity, or do we not have them on our set? Because those are two very different
I don't
things,
know, but I
you
want to
know?
live in the Love is Blind Japan set. It's so
Me
fucking dope.
too.
Every
Yeah,
every
for real.
setting in this show, you guys, if you're watching this, if
I
you're not
know.
watching this, please watch this show. It's so beautiful. It's so gorgeous.
For real. Yeah.
Um, any who's so
Who else gets engaged?
okay, so Priya and Mizuki get engaged.
Yep, Priya and Mizuki get engaged. That's right. Boom.
Udai and
More. Yeah.
Nana
Yudai
get
and my girl
engaged.
Nana with her cute ass dresses. That was hilarious. She was like tripping.
Freaking
She was like, oh my
out.
God, oh my God, oh my God. And he was like, sit down, breathe. And she's like, are we
Yeah.
really doing this right now? He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
It was kind of cute that he, very similar to Shantaro, was like coaching his girl like
Oh
to
my
chill the fuck
god.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Mori and Manami also get engaged as well.
Oh my god. Wait,
Yeah.
we cannot look over when yeah, Maury goes into the gentleman's quarters and he fully starts popping and
Pop
locking.
lock. It was so cool. It was
I was
cute.
like,
He was like,
what the fuck is going on right now? It was amazing. Also, he's very good at it. Second,
yeah.
how adorable. Like every time someone does some expression of like art, song, dance on the show, I'm like, I can't believe we get to watch this right now. I can't believe it. And everyone's like, you hear like the English dubbed version of how other people are cheering them on. So they're just like, woohoo, yeah, wow, great.
Yeah. It's so
You
awkward.
guys,
The English dub is so bad.
it's
It's so bad.
so bad. Okay, can I tell you that the English dub voice that I hate the most
Yeah, okay, tell me.
is Ayano's?
Yeah, because it's so kawaii. They're like, I'm like, I don't think you're doing her a service here. You're like trying to make her into some fucking anime character. Like, she's a
Yeah, like
human.
it's so like delicate and fragile and like, and also I will recognize that this is probably like there's probably some um internalized misogyny that is like contributing to my reaction to the voice that they
Mm.
give her because it's so
Yeah,
feminine and um
but not in a way that I think is honoring Ayano's person, you know?
right. I
Like
have a problem with it because of that, but I also like I just so don't identify with it. I'm like, ah,
yeah,
I have
yeah,
such a reaction to it when I'm watching it, which
same.
I have to
I
get re-engaged because it makes me not like her, but I don't think that
But it's not her.
it's not about her. It's not even her
Yeah,
voice. Yeah.
no, yeah. Um, so I feel you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here's what I thought was interesting. When Mori and Manami meet, he was like, um, they're both relieved, but then he says he's still anxious and has reservations. So I'm like, reservations about what? Can you tell me more? Like, I was like, what kind of
Mhm.
reservations?
Mhm.
Um, when Wataru and Midori meet, they immediately kiss. I thought they were the cutest because they were
Yeah.
so, yeah, they're into each other. I like it a lot. And then Priya and Mizuki, she was super relieved that he was masculine, like as masculine as he was. I
Mhm.
guess she was anticipating him to have more feminine features, she says.
He's
So
a short king though.
he is a short king. So I think that also she's been in heels each time they've been together. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
curious to know what that height difference really is.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's it for who gets engaged on, right?
Yeah, we said Mori and
Yep.
Minami, right? Yeah, I
Yep.
think that
Yep.
that's who gets engaged. I think yeah, it's interesting. I think that the couple that oh, you know what's interesting is Midori and Wataru. Like you can tell that we don't really get to hear this from a lot of other people of like what it's like for them to see the face of the person that they've been connecting with. And I think Midori is the person who's most honest and most vocal from the get-go that she is like he looks different than how I imagined him and I'm waiting for like the realities to align that the
Yeah.
person that I'm looking at. And so she's not saying it not yet. She's not saying it but like I'm like, okay, you're not attracted to him off rip, you know?
I feel like it could be that, but I also just think the disembodied voice thing, because we hear this in the American version too. I think it's
For
just a
sure.
little bit of a
Mm-mm.
mind fuck, you
Definitely.
know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know what I've been thinking about as we're watching the show
What?
is
Tell
beauty
me.
standards. Yeah.
Oh my
Beauty
God,
standards.
yes.
I just don't know what typical Japanese like beauty standards are. And I know that while I do know that there's like a preference for lighter skin, and that's just like true in most countries, unfortunately. But like the beauty standards and what is deemed attractive in all people is different than
Hmm.
what we're honestly bought and sold in America.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious because I've been checking my own biases when I'm like who is attractive to me and knowing that
Oh,
like
yeah.
that might not have any weight in
Yeah.
who they each find attractive in one another because of the cultural
Yeah.
differences. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious. I like no one's really saying it. I don't know who like who of these people fit more in alignment with their beauty standards and who doesn't. I have no idea.
Hmm.
So interesting.
Yeah. Yep. I feel you on that. So Are we gonna wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess that's it for these two.
What are we ditching? I say we ditch the people pleasing thing. Um
Yeah.
and it's like silencing ourselves to match other people's moods and make space for other people over our own emotions, ideas, needs, blah blah blah. Ayano, that one's for you, babe. It doesn't serve us in the long run. It actually does the complete opposite. It really fucks us over and sabotages us, and it forces us into choosing relationships that aren't aligned with what we really want. So that's what I'm choosing to ditch.
Yeah. I uh I am ditching also for Ayano. Sorry, girl. I'm ditching, but this is like to support her. And I come like all of our criticism for Ayano comes from such a place of love and
Love.
understanding.
Yeah.
Because she really is she's a really nice girl, good girl. But ditching seeking self in others.
Mm,
Not effective, also makes you incredibly vulnerable to the wrong kind of person.
yes.
And that's that, really.
Yeah. I am so interested to see how Shintaro and her get on. There's an age gap here of 26 years, just for the record. And
Wowie.
I know, right? But shit's happened like that before, and people can. I really do believe that age is just a number, but I am fascinated to see with how far along Shantaro is and who he is and his comfortability with self versus the polar opposite with Ayano. If it allows her to find herself in the way that she's desiring, or if it triggers her not to. You know what I mean? Like I'm just curious to see like how it gets on. We'll see.
Yeah, ditto. Anything that you're wanting to bring into the world from this?
Peace and love.
I was thinking more like we need more written out documents of what we want.
Oh my gosh. I think sitting with yourself and just getting really clear on, like we said at the top of the episode, needs versus wants, and like getting really clear on like what the person in front of us is available for,
Mm-hmm.
instead of like trying to push them to become what we want them to be. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
think that is always a constant thing. It's like what I think is great about Love is Blind, because here's what I think can happen. In normal dating situations, I think we can find someone that we're so sexually attracted to, and it's like, God, you're so hot, and now I just need you to be this, that, and the other thing so that this can work
Yes.
out. I
Oh
think
my
that
God.
happens a lot.
Stop
And
reading
that's
my
what's
diary.
Oh, Jesus, sorry. And then with this show, you don't get that because it's like
Yeah.
you can't tell if the person's hot or not. So you're way more choosing them just based off of like the conversation you're having, your values and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's great. And yeah, the end. I think we need a little bit more of that. If we can like care less about what the person looks like and more about like how do they make me feel when I'm with them, how do they make me feel when I'm not with them, this is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've said, values and needs. I think that's really what we need at the end of the day. I know that's what we need, because sex, looks, fleeting.
Fleeting. We are
Yeah.
only a hot girl summer for so many summers.
And sex lasts how long? And it's like the entire relationship can't be sustained from that. It's like,
Nope. Nope.
yeah.
So
Alrighty.
come join us on our social medias at Ditch the Script Pod everywhere. And if you want to check in with us, ask us a question, apply for a free 30-minute session, you know where to find us on our website, www.ditchthescriptpod.com. And go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, watch Alex throw up dupes.
Yep. And try and
Duking it
pop,
out.
lock, and drop it.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. And like our silly little silent dances in the beginning, like you absolutely want to see that. You want to see that.
Yeah.
And see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye.